What's up, gamers? Welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about the changes that just came out in the patch recently. I got the patch notes in the background right here. So they changed the amp, the M19 akimbo, and the Sykov with auto, as well as, I believe, the AS VAL, the Fennec, the Monomorph MP5, and the OTS. OTS has been covered before. These are the changes that were actually in the in-game patch notes for a little while when they dropped their patch like 2 or 3 days ago. For Season 5, but when we tested in-game, they hadn't actually been changed yet, and then the patch notes were removed right after that. So I think that was just a mistake, but we're going to go through these changes, and I'll show you all the differences that this makes, and there's going to be some bonus content in here as well, some stuff that we discovered that we didn't actually know about in the past. So obviously I'll cover that. As always, if you guys like the content, drop us a sub, a like, comment, help us out with the algorithm, and keep the channel booming. But let us jump into these changes. All right, first up, let's go over the AS VAL changes. This is really a change that I think they made just because of solos and duos. The AS VAL was essentially a dominant gun in solos and somewhat in duos as well. There was just nothing that even came close to the TTKs of the AS VAL, so it was just ridiculously good. Nobody really used it in trios and quads just because of the small mag, but it was a lot of fun because it absolutely fried people. So the changes, base stats comparison here. The pre-nerf is on the left, 47, 37, 30, 30 in the first damage drop-off versus 42, 33, 27, 27 in the first drop-off currently after the nerf. So that's a pretty significant change. They didn't change the damage drop-off at all. It's still 32 meters. And then past 32 meters, it went from... actually, there was no change past 32 meters. Yeah, I forgot about that. So exactly the same after the second drop-off. Again, nobody's really using it for that. It's more of an SMG. Occasionally you might have a fight that's 32 meters or longer that you're going to use AS VAL for, but in general you're not trying to use it that far just because it has really bad bullet velocity. But if you look at TTK charts, again, this is that combined TTK chart. It doesn't say that yet. Still, we haven't worked on the front end, but this is using the same percentages that I used last time. So like, I don't remember what it was, like 13% headshot, 13% chest shot, or 35% chest shot, 13% stomach shot, and then 40% extremity shots. So that's, again, I talked about this in my last video. If you're curious about that, we've got an advanced TTK calculator coming to the website that actually uses these percentages and finds real possible TTKs based on the shot location percentages. So go check that video out, the last video right before this, if you're interested in how that works. I'm not going to cover how it works in this, but it's really cool and it actually works really well. Gives you really accurate, real TTK numbers that are possible in the game. And I got my shot location percentages from Black Ops Cold War assault rifles. So Black Ops Cold War actually gives you the shot locations that you hit people most of the time. So it's not perfect for Warzone because Warzone has different TTKs, different engagement ranges, but it's better than just totally guessing. So I'm literally just using the percentages from Black Ops Cold War. A bunch of people sent me those numbers, and I averaged them out, and they were all very, very consistent, by the way. Like literally within plus or minus 5% in every shot location for all the different numbers I received from everyone. So I think it's actually a decent thing to go off of for Warzone, even though it's not Warzone. But anyway, I digress. Using that, this is the TTKs you get. So before it had this 475 millisecond TTK in the first damage range, and now 542. So it's still really, really good. So if I add like a pre-nerf, I use the Monomorph MP5 as comparison. So this is a pre-nerf Monomorph MP5 just because everybody knows what that feels like. It was really popular early on. It's less popular now because we have the OTS. But you can see the AS VAL in the orange here, pre-nerf, killed way faster than the MP5 all the way out to 32 meters, which is why it was so good at solos and duos, even though it only had a 30 round mag. But now the AS VAL has been nerfed, and it still kills really fast. I mean, this is still extremely fast. It's literally 20 milliseconds slower than the Monomorph MP5 pre-nerf, so it's like hardly any different. Still fantastic TTKs, same range, just a little bit of a nerf, and I'm okay with it. I feel like it brings it in line with more where it should be, especially with solos and duos. Let's go over the amp changes real fast. So the amp is the fully auto pistol that got added, I don't know, maybe like 2 months ago now. So I found slightly longer damage ranges. So the left is the pre-nerf amp, and the right is the post-nerf amp. I've labeled them pre-nerf and regular. So the regular is always the current one, and then whatever has text, so pre-nerf is before the change, obviously. So 1 extra meter in the first damage range, and then 2 extra meters in the second damage range. But it got a nerf in terms of damage. So it went from 42, 39, 36, 33 to 40, 37, 34, 31 in the first drop. And then the second drop, it was the same. And then in the third drop, it was a little bit different. So this is one of those weird things where it was like 1 damage off again. I don't know why they do this. But basically in the last drop off, it's 1 damage less everywhere than it was before. I'm going to compare these on the TTK chart to the Modern Warfare MP5. Again, this is the old Modern Warfare MP5. People know what that feels like, what that feels like to be shot by, and what it feels like to kill people with. So that's why I use it as comparison for SMGs. I'm using the same methodology I did for the AS-VAL, where I talked about how this is a shot location percentage chart. This doesn't just do chest, it says chest, but you'll see if I change the shot location, it doesn't change the TTKs because it's not even using that right now. The front end's not live for this part of the website, but soon we'll have this on the site, hopefully. But I'm using the SMG percentages. The SMG percentages from my Black Ops Cold War study, where I had a bunch of people send me data, was also extremely consistent, but it was kind of weird. So it was roughly 10% head, 10% chest, 10% stomach, and then 70% extremities. I don't know exactly if that's because of weird hitbox or if it's just because of how SMGs were used, but again, it was super consistent between all the different numbers people sent me, plus or minus, maybe even less than the AR percentages, probably plus or minus like 3% or so. So very consistent, so I feel comfortable using that for this, especially because SMGs are kind of played the same between the two games because they're up-close engagements, so I don't have to take into account engagement distance of Warzone being longer because SMGs aren't used at range, so it doesn't matter. So these are the numbers we get when we go through that. You see the AMP, pre-nerf, and current. Orange and pink here are both the same TTK with these percentages, and that's because it's majority extremities, and extremities didn't change too much. So it's quite a bit, not quite a bit, it's like 50 milliseconds slower than the MP5 with a little more damage range. It actually kills really fast. I think this gun is pretty underrated. It'd be a great gun to pick up off your first loadout if you want to grab Ghost or Tempered. I think this is a really solid option. Even with the post nerf, it has a little bit more damage range, but similar TTKs. So it's really not a whole lot different. You get a little extra damage range, a little lower DPS, but really it is a great option. I think it's actually kind of slept on a little bit as a Ghost, as a gun you pick up with Ghost. All right, let's go over the Modern Warfare MP5 changes. I don't really understand these changes. We'll talk about that as we get into the TTKs and things, but basically it has slight damage range nerf, went from 9.5 meters down to 8.9 meters. First damage drop off changed from 49, 34, 34, 30 to 44, 34, 31, 27. Second damage drop off went from 36, 25, 25, 22 to 36, 27, 25, 22. So it actually got a slight damage increase on chest shots in the second damage range from 25 up to 27. And then the third damage range went from 31, 22, 22, 19 to 31, 24, 22, 19. Again, the chest went up by 2 damage values. So it actually got slightly better at range from 8.9 meters on. It's slightly better than it used to be, but not even worth really talking about that, especially when the OTS exists. So if you look at this, fire rate of the Modern Warfare MP5 is about 800 RPM. OTS is 855. Damage range is very similar, 0.7 meters difference. Woo. And it does more damage to the head, more damage, or the same damage to the chest, more damage to the stomach, more damage to extremities. Better movement speed, better ADS times. I don't have the reload time on here, but the reload time is crazy fast in the OTS, whereas the Modern Warfare MP5 is pretty slow. Sprint speed is going to be quite a bit faster on the OTS. Bullet velocity is faster on the Modern Warfare MP5 and has slightly higher damage per mag. It's like 10% higher damage per mag. So it's like, why would I ever choose to use the MP5 now? Really, it was hard to recommend before. So this is the same SMG chart I was using before. OTS is cyan, magenta is Modern Warfare MP5, and then orange is MP5 before the nerf. So you can see orange, it had a little more damage range than the OTS, but it had a little bit worse time to kills. Now, up here at the magenta line is where the Modern Warfare MP5 sits now. Just dramatically worse than the OTS, and almost the same damage range as the OTS now. So it's like there's literally the only thing you could possibly say would be damage per mag and bullet velocity. The Modern Warfare MP5 wins. So the OTS now is absolutely the king. It was the king before, but now it's even more the king. The Modern Warfare MP5 is one of the only guns that could sort of justify using instead of the OTS. But now it's like I can't tell you to use Modern Warfare MP5. I can't tell you to use the Cold War MP5 for like aggressive playstyles. Just use the OTS. There's no debate there. Just use the OTS. Alright, so the Sykov also caught a nerf for the auto mag attachment. I don't remember exactly what the auto and akimbo was before, but the auto attachment did for sure. Also, this is not built into TTK charts on the website yet, so you can't really compare this on the site yet, just because there's never been a case before where I've had to check for 2 separate attachments to change the damage profile. That's a unique situation in terms of programming that I've never had to deal with before. So this has a unique profile, so if you attach these 2 attachments on the website right now, it will not be correct in terms of TTK, but if you just use the Sorokin auto barrel, that will be correct. So The new damage profile is 31, 34, 31, 24, 24, so there's no benefit for hitting headshots, only chest shot and headshot with the auto Sykov. And then from 12 to 21, it's 26, 26, 20, 20. And then 21 plus is 21, 21, 17, 17. So with the way they've massacred the movement speed of the Sykov when you have the 80 round mag, I don't think I can recommend it anymore over the amp. If you look at TTKs, even after the changes to the Sykov, the actual TTKs are very similar to the amp. It's 30 milliseconds slower with the amp in the first damage range, similar damage drop off, and similar second damage drop off as well. And the amp's a little bit faster actually from 12 out to that 20 meter mark. So if you're going to pick a ghost loadout, I think you go with the amp now instead of the Sykov. You're going to have similar TTKs and much more damage per mag and better movement speed because you don't have to equip that 80 round mag like you do with the 180 millimeter auto Sykov barrel. So that's my recommendation if you want a single gun to use the amp instead of the Sykov for your ghost perk loadout. All right, while we are on the topic of ghost loadouts and what you can get for your secondary, in the patch notes again they said they nerfed the M19 akimbos, so we're going to talk about that some and also talk about the Renetti akimbo as well as the Diamati. So in the first damage drop off, this is where at the beginning of the video I said we discovered something unique. I didn't know about this before because I'd never attempted to test the akimbo perk for these pistols before. But they also cut your range dramatically from what they normally would be. It's like a 38% decrease in range or something like that. So I've got the Renetti's akimbo without burst. So this is akimbo Renetti's without burst. M19's akimbo and Diamati. So Renetti's are green, M19s are cyan, and then magenta is the Diamati. And the amp's on here still too. So the amp is the orange. So you can see the cyan line now after the nerf that came out yesterday for the M19s. It's slower than the amp, even in that first 6 meters range. So you only get 6 meters of range before the first drop off with these akimbo pistols. Again, we didn't know about that. Didn't know akimbo reduced your damage range. These are usually around 10 meters, 12 meters, something like that for the first drop off without akimbo. So there's just literally no reason to use the M19s anymore. They're just worse than the Renetti's. Renetti's had, before the trade-off was M19s, you had slightly bigger mag than the Renetti's, but everything else was like the same. So really you got slightly more damage range with the Renetti and a smaller mag. But now it's like you get 5 less bullets, but dramatically better TTKs. You can see the green line here. The Renetti's are way faster than the amp or the M19 in that first damage drop off. The Diamati is just constant across the board using those shot location percentages for SMGs. So really, I think the amp is the best gun to pick up for basically like an SMG replacement until you can get your SMG on your second loadout. I just think the amp's the best to go there unless you want to play like almost like a shotgun. So if you want to play shotgun ranges, akimbo Renetti's without burst for sure is the way to go. This will give you phenomenal TTKs down at 575 milliseconds in that first damage range out to about 6.8 meters. Again, normally that's like 12 meters, but the akimbo perk we found reduced damage range significantly. So it also doesn't have a third drop off with the Renetti's. Not that that matters because you're really not trying to use those akimbo guns out past 15 meters or so. But the drop off with the M19s is so short for the third drop off that it would actually affect you sometimes. So no question, if you liked akimbo M19s, just switch to Renetti's. They're going to feel exactly the same. I use the Renetti's half the time anyway, just because I liked the red, white, and blue tracers. So there's really no reason not to just use the Renetti's now if you want that style of secondary. Alright, so that covers all of the patch changes from yesterday's patch. All this is up to date on the website. You can go check it out yourself and try out the builds. Again, pre-nerf is on there and the current values on there as well, so you can kind of compare the values. And the ones I don't have that for would be like the M19 akimbo and the Sykov. I don't have those on there. But everything else should be on there. So again, if you guys like the content, drop a sub, like, comment, help us out with the algorithm. Really trying to hit 200,000 subscribers here pretty soon. Appreciate you guys all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.